Hello everyone, I'm Underwood and welcome to the Underwood Gaming Company. Please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want to know when we post new videos. Let's talk about Dungeons & Dragons Online. Let me start by saying this game is kind of great. I did say kind of because there are some things about it that are a little frustrating. But also a ton of things that are really wonderful. I first played Dungeons & Dragons Online, or DDO, back in 2009. It was the first MMO that I had ever truly played, and there was something about it that I just loved. Fast forward to December of 2022, and I decided to give it another shot. The first thing that I noticed was that not much seemed to have changed. If you're someone that needs your game looking sleek and modern, then this is not the game for you. That's not to say that it's unpleasant to look at, except for people's eyes, but there doesn't appear to have been much in terms of a visual update since the 2006 release date. And I'm actually fine with that. I've never seen something in the game and wondered, what is that supposed to be? As far as mechanics, there is still a ludicrous amount of information to take in if you aren't familiar with Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 edition, which this is mostly based off of. The important thing to understand when making a character is that you'll have a primary stat, which most classes will want to max out, and dump the rest into Constitution. Some classes are a bit more complicated, like the Paladin, who needs both Charisma and Wisdom to use its spells and abilities, but also needs a high Strength and Constitution because they're typically frontline fighters. Thankfully, you can get items later that help bump your stats. So I made a Paladin, because I love them. Jeet still walked a careful line between annoying and endearing, but I will always hold the words tidy lasses and pints up the wazoo close to my heart. Not because they resonate with me, but because I've played through this tutorial at least 50 times in my life. Combat, at least in the early stages, is mostly just holding down a mouse button and moving up next to an enemy. This does get much more complicated in the later game as you add spells, abilities, and things called clickies by the community, which is fun. It's a hybrid tab targeting combat system with some action combat elements, which feels very comfortable for me personally. While some of the action takes place outside, mostly what you're doing is completing dungeons, some of which are just dimly lit buildings. While you can technically do most things solo, if you're like me, you will be frustrated with how much you'll miss out on if you're just free to play. Spotting things passively is based off of wisdom, and actually searching for things and disarming them is tied to intelligence and dexterity. Since most paladins are in short supply of both, they would have to either find someone to play with, eat the damage, or get a hireling. Now for free to play, you can only have one hireling active at a time, which, while it doesn't ruin the experience, is a bit disappointing. If you can't heal yourself and or take a good amount of damage, you will need a cleric hireling. But that means that you can't have a rogue hireling to get traps for you, or to pick locks. Hirelings don't even cost that much, at least not in the early game. The trick is that you can only summon them near the entrance to a dungeon. I suppose you could take the high wisdom cleric with you initially, and then when they spot something, run back to the beginning and swap them out for the high intelligence rogue, but that sounds like a horrible way to live, and I would rather just not know what the hidden thing does. But even with this handicap, I still absolutely love going through dungeons. I normally hate dungeon crawls when I'm playing actual D&D because it is horrendously slow, but this gives you that experience without the slog. A round of combat in D&D can take 10 minutes. A round of combat in DDO is about 2 seconds. Sure, you miss out on solving problems creatively, but if what you're wanting is that feeling of adventure or that sense of heroism, then this still checks those boxes nicely. Now the story. When you look at something like World of Warcraft, each expansion and its subsequent patches are all available as long as you have an active subscription and have purchased the most recent expansion. You'll have access to all the content in the game. With DDO, you have a few different options. There doesn't appear to be any kind of a main quest line. Instead, DDO is full of a bunch of smaller self-contained stories. But you can buy adventure packs, which serve as miniature expansions. Some of them cost a few hundred DDO points, which we'll discuss in a moment, and some of them cost a few thousand. They have things called expansions, but they seem to just be adventure packs that you can purchase different tiers of, that come with varying amounts of bonuses. Some optional talent trees are included with the higher tier expansion packs, but they aren't necessary. You can, technically, buy almost all of this just by playing the game. For every dungeon that you complete, you get favor. The amount of favor depends on the dungeon and the highest difficulty that you've beaten it on. Early game, it's between 2 and 12. For every 100 total favor that a character earns, you get 25 DDO points. That is not much, but it's better than nothing, and you could technically play most of the game for absolutely free. Now, back in 2009, I'd only finished the Harbor District, and I had just started doing a quest for, I believe, House Cannith? Despite only having made it that far, I had probably played this game for around 100 hours. I kept restarting and trying new builds out. That is something that I love, but I understand if that's not for you. Because I haven't actually beaten the game, I can't tell you what endgame is like, which seems important. But if you enjoy this game even half as much as I have, you can have at least a few hours of incredibly enjoyable content for absolutely free. Although if the early game is any indication, probably a lot more than that.
Frostbite the Spider Queen. What a chump.
That's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. If you want more DDO content, let us know in the comments below. You can also click here to watch any of the videos that I've made of me playing the game. Once again, I'm Underwood, and thank you for watching.